The S-glare effect in Boris FX Sapphire has been a bit of an underappreciated gem. With Sapphire 2026.5 and above, the team has added in new things that make it easier to create something sparkly without the faff. I'm Ben Brownlee for Boris Effects, and I'm going to show you my tips for S-glare and some surprising places it likes to hang out. I'm going to be looking at this in After Effects, but any host that works with Sapphire is going to work exactly the same way. Same controls, same everything. Okay, so in this first example, I just have some sapphire dust slowly falling down here, and I'm going to apply under the lighting category S-glare. What happens at this point is very much going to depend on your footage. You're either going to be overwhelmed by glares or underwhelmed by nothing. And in this case, I'm being underwhelmed by nothing. So the most important control that you touch first is going to be the threshold. So bringing the threshold up means that we're going to have fewer glares. And if we bring the threshold down, we're going to get more of those lovely glares. Lovely stuff. So if I've got something that is like dusty and sparkly like this, I can easily bring the threshold down. Everything's good. Now, if you're working on an older version of Sapphire, you might notice that the style of the glare looks a little bit different to mine. That's because with 2026.5, there was a change of what the defaults looked like. So we're going to end up with something that looks a little bit better than what it used to look like in the old versions. Now, the fun of Sapphire filters doesn't lie within its parameters. A lot of it lies within the presets. So if I load up the presets, we have a huge number to look through. And these have been designed to give us a variety of results and also try out a variety of the different things that you can do with the plugin. Now, if we're just looking at the viewer here to give us an idea of what these are actually going to end up looking like, I wouldn't trust that at the default settings. Now, the reason for that is that the results we're going to get as I zoom in are going to be different depending on my zoom level. So with something like glare, I would always try to end up previewing it at 100%. So we get a much better idea about what things are going to look like at that stage. Let's find something that I like. I mean, I like a lot of these. Let's find something. Let's go prism shards. Load those in. And remember the threshold has to be changed again because the threshold gets saved with the preset. So we change that down. Have a little look at that. If we move on to our next example here, I'll load up another preset. And you can see here what I mean when I say it either looks very overwhelming or very underwhelming. This case, we are looking very, very overwhelming. Let's go with a solar crescent. Yeah, that's kind of nice. And in this case, I'm going to bring up the threshold. So I want fewer of these things now being part of the scene. Maybe I'll take the size up. I'll take the brightness down. Always nice for a little bit of balance. You don't want to overwhelm. Or maybe you do want to overwhelm. I don't know. I don't want to overwhelm. Let's say it like that. Let's take a quick look at this one. And you see very quickly that's given us a much more interesting, fashiony forward type of look to this. As if I had put a prism filter in front of the lens. So that's nice. I like this. Let's look at the next example as a way of just sort of controlling that glare a little bit more. So if I come here, again, you can maybe see one of the glares that's happening just on the hottest spot there. So guess what I'm going to do? Yeah, I'm going to do what I did previously. Just come in and bring the threshold down. Let's bring the size up so we can see these a bit better. I'm just going to leave these at the default settings here because it's going to be obvious what is going to happen with these. Now, if we look through this one, at first glance, it looks pretty nice, but there's a few things that are a little bit strange about it. And I'm going to direct you to look over at the shoulder over here. So the way that Sapphire determines where to put these glares depends on, relatively speaking, just two different things. We've got threshold and a threshold blur. Let me just show you what this looks like. And we use a different effect, which doesn't do exactly the same sort of thing, but this is going to give us a good idea of what is going to happen. So hotspots has a threshold. Very nice. And it also has a blur. So imagine now, if we're looking at this in the context of glare, what we're getting here is the brightest spots in the image. And then what the blur is doing is making sure that we have fewer of those bright spots. We can control this a little bit more. If I turn on S-glare, let's look at that in context. So if I come to threshold blur, I'm going to take this down to 0. We can see that we're picking up many, many more points of interest. So if I'm getting something that is slipping, like the arm down there, we're getting a slip. What I can try to do is take down the amount of blur that happens. But remember, we're always trying to balance things out. We bring up the threshold. So when blur comes down, threshold goes up. And now this should, if I just look over onto this side here, we're not going to get that same sort of slippage that we were getting previously. We might get something that's a little bit more jittery. You know, that's consequence of having a very low or no blur, but we're not going to get that sort of slippage. So if you are slipping, blur comes down, threshold goes up. Now in this next shot, we do have our nice glares, but we've got big glares happening not just on the reflective area, we've got glares happening on our skin as well. That's, you know, simply because, if I turn this off, we're going to have like little hot spots in the skin here as well. Now the nice thing about Sapphire is that built into every Sapphire effect is Mocha. And we have Sapphire Mocha as a quick way of masking out elements that we don't want. I'm going to come up to my object brush. I'm going to select the head of the model here. It's going to load my Mask ML model into the graphics card. I'm going to select a piece of the body down at the bottom there, and I'm just going to render this out back and forwards to automatically create my mask. Now, depending on the length and the resolution of your clip, this is going to take a little bit of time, but just let it sit, and then we'll come back when it is all finished. And when that's done, I'm just going to hit save, file, exit, and you'll see that the glare is now contained to just where I masked out. I don't want that. So I'm going to come into the Mocha controls and just invert Mocha there. And now I have my glare happening all the way over. Perfect. But just not emanating from the model anymore. Nice. The last thing that I want to show you is just a hidden place where glare happens to be, and it happens to be hiding out in night sky. So if I have my night sky here, we've got the stuff all glinting and twinkling as we go. If you open this effect up, you'll see glare, and you'll also see edit glare. So if I hit edit glare now, what's going to happen is it's going to open up my flare designer, which is where the glares all occur. Hit load, and all of my glares are going to be right here for me. So I can find something that I really like. Give me something that is very starry. Actually, let's go simple star glare 2. Let's hit OK on that. Nice. Hit OK on that. And you'll see, if I adjust the glare size now, that we're able to get a brand new custom glare right inside of night sky. And if I don't like that one anymore, let's come in, let's do Helios Bloom, hit OK on that, and immediately that will update for me back in night sky. So we take a look at this one that I created earlier. You know, again, just out of the presets, we're able to give a whole different look now to night sky just using the glare presets. So that's a quick overview of Sapphire Glare. If you have any other comments or questions, drop them down below, of course. And I'll also link you to the Boris Effects Discord server and forums. If you want to learn more about Sapphire or grab a free trial, of course you can at boriseffects.com. My name is Ben Brownlee for Boris Effects. I'll see you again soon.